The spoon clattered against the ceramic bowl, tomato soup splashing onto the kitchen counter. My hands wouldn't stop trembling. "Grandma, are you okay?" Lily's small voice cut through the fog in my head. I forced myself to smile at my 7-year-old granddaughter, who was staring at me with those big hazel eyes. "I'm fine, sweetheart. Just clumsy today." But I wasn't fine. Not after what I'd just seen. Let me back up. My name is Margaret, and 3 weeks ago, I'd come to Portland to stay with my daughter Sarah and granddaughter Lily for the summer. Sarah had been struggling since her divorce 2 years back, working from home as a software consultant while trying to raise Lily alone. When she mentioned needing help with childcare during her busiest client meetings, I'd jumped at the chance. I'd retired from teaching last year, and my small house in Boise felt too quiet without my late husband. The arrangement was simple. I'd watch Lily in the mornings, and a part-time babysitter Sarah had hired through some app, a young woman named Brittany, would take over from 1 to 5 in the afternoons while I ran errands or just had some time to myself. Sarah worked in the den upstairs during those hours, her door closed for video conferences. Everything seemed perfect. For the first 2 weeks, anyway. Then I started noticing things. Lily had always been an energetic child, constantly drawing, playing with her dolls, asking me to read her another story. But lately, by the time I returned from my afternoon walks around 3 o'clock, I'd find her curled up on the couch, drowsy and listless. When I'd ask Brittany about it, she'd just shrug and say, "Kids need their rest, Mrs. Thompson. She's probably going through a growth spurt." That seemed reasonable enough. But it bothered me. Growth spurts don't make a child look sedated. Today, I'd decided to skip my usual walk to the farmer's market. Instead, I'd told Brittany I was leaving but had only driven around the block before parking down the street and walking back. Call it intuition. Call it a grandmother's instinct. Something was telling me to watch. I'd let myself in through the back door as quietly as possible. The house was silent except for the hum of Sarah's voice upstairs, muffled behind her office door. I'd crept toward the living room and peered around the corner. Brittany was on her phone, scrolling through social media with her feet propped on our coffee table. Lily sat beside her, staring blankly at the TV. And on the table, I saw an open bottle of what looked like gummy vitamins. "Here, Lily," Brittany had said without looking up from her phone. "Time for your special gummies. Your mom wants you to take 2. I'd watched as she'd shaken out not 2, but 3 gummies into Lily's small palm. "But Miss Brittany, I already had some at lunch," Lily had said, her voice slow and uncertain. "Your mom said you need more because you've been so hyper lately. They help you focus better for your online activities." Lily had obediently swallowed them while Brittany went back to her phone. That's when I'd backed away, my heart hammering, and gone to the kitchen to make myself busy. To think, to figure out what I'd just witnessed. Sarah had never mentioned any vitamins, and giving a child extra doses of anything without a parent's explicit knowledge, that was wrong, potentially dangerous. Now, standing at the sink with soup dripping down the cabinet, I knew I had to act carefully. I couldn't just confront Brittany, not without proof, not without knowing exactly what she was giving Lily. "Grandma, you're staring at the wall," Lily said. I snapped back to attention. "Sorry, honey. Just thinking about what to make for dinner. How about we clean this up together?" As we wiped down the counter, I studied Lily's face. Her pupils seemed slightly larger than normal. Her movements were slower, less coordinated than usual. When Brittany's shift ended at 5, and she left with a cheerful, "See you tomorrow," I waited until Sarah emerged from her office before pulling her aside. "We need to talk." "About Brittany." Sarah's face immediately tensed. "What happened? Did she do something wrong?" "Show me the vitamins you've been giving, Lily." "Vitamins?" Sarah's brow furrowed. "I haven't been giving her any vitamins. Why?" My stomach dropped. "Get your laptop. We need to check your security cameras." Sarah had installed a basic camera system when she'd bought the house, nothing fancy, just feeds from the living room and front door that saved to the cloud. We'd never had reason to review the footage until now. We sat at the kitchen table, Sarah's fingers flying over the keyboard. What am I looking for? Today's footage, around 1:30. The video loaded. There was Brittany, settling onto the couch. There was Lily, alert and chatty when Brittany arrived. And there, my breath caught, was Brittany reaching into her large purse and pulling out an unmarked bottle. "Pause it," I said. Sarah froze the frame. We both leaned closer to the screen, trying to make out details of the bottle. It was orange-tinted plastic, definitely a pill bottle, but the label had been removed or scratched off. "Play it forward," I whispered. We watched as Brittany gave Lily 3 gummies, the same scene I'd witnessed in person. But then Sarah gasped and grabbed my arm. Go back 30 seconds. She rewound the footage. Before giving Lily the gummies, Brittany had been on her phone. Sarah paused on a frame where the phone's screen was partially visible. Can you zoom in on that? The camera quality wasn't great, but we could make out enough. Brittany had been texting someone. The message preview showed, "Gave her another dose. She'll be out cold by 3. Come over at 3:30. Who the hell is she texting?" Sarah's voice was shaking. "And what is she giving my daughter?" "We need that bottle," I said firmly, switching into the mode I'd used for 30 years as a middle school teacher. Calm, authoritative, solution-focused. "Tomorrow, I'll find it and bring it to Dr. Peterson at the clinic. He can identify what it is." "Tomorrow?" "Margaret, my daughter could be in danger right now." "Sarah," I gripped her hands. "Look at me. Lily is fine. She's groggy, but fine. If Brittany wanted to seriously hurt her, she would have done it already. This has been going on for at least a week based on what I've seen. Whatever she's doing, it's calculated, which means we have time to do this right." Sarah's eyes filled with tears. I trusted her. I did a background check through the app. She had perfect reviews. "We'll figure this out," I promised. "But we need to be smart. We need evidence, and we need to understand what we're dealing with before we act." That night, after Lily was asleep, Sarah and I reviewed 3 weeks of security footage. It made me sick. Every single day, Brittany had been giving Lily those mystery gummies. Sometimes 2, sometimes 3, always from the unmarked bottle, and always while checking her phone, sending texts to someone. The pattern was clear. Brittany would medicate Lily until she was drowsy, then spend the next several hours on her phone or watching TV, doing the bare minimum of supervision. On 3 separate occasions, we saw her actually leave the house for 20-minute stretches, leaving Lily alone and half asleep on the couch. "I'm calling the police," Sarah said at 2 in the morning, her face pale with rage and guilt. "Not yet," I said. "We will, I promise. But first, we need to know what she's giving Lily. The police will ask, and we need that answer. Plus," I hesitated, then decided Sarah needed to hear the hard truth. "If we report this now, Brittany will know immediately that we're on to her. She'll delete any evidence on her phone, claim the bottle is hers, say she had it in her purse by accident, and Lily got into it. It'll be our word against hers. So what do we do? Tomorrow, you keep your office door closed like always. I'll tell Brittany I need to run to the pharmacy. But I'll actually stay and watch through the window. The moment she takes out that bottle, I'll come in and take it. We'll have physical evidence." And the person she's texting? That was the question keeping me awake. Who was Brittany communicating with? And why did they want Lily sedated? The next morning, I moved through the routine mechanically, made breakfast, helped Lily with her online math lesson, tried not to stare at every gesture, every yawn, looking for signs of what those mystery pills were doing to her developing brain. When Brittany arrived at 1, all sunshine and fake smiles, I wanted to grab her by her bleached hair and throw her out of my daughter's house. Instead, I smiled back. "I've got to run some errands," I announced. "Should be back around 4. "Take your time, Mrs. Thompson," Brittany said, already pulling out her phone. I got in my car, drove to the end of the street, parked, and walked back through the neighbor's yard. Sarah's house had a row of hedges along the living room window, overgrown and perfect for hiding behind. Through the gap in the curtains, I watched. 1:15. Brittany pulled out the bottle. My pulse quickened. 1:16. She shook out 3 gummies. 1:17. She handed them to Lily with that same casual instruction. "Your mom wants you to take these." I didn't wait another second. I marched to the front door and burst inside. "Lily, go upstairs to Mommy's office right now," I commanded. Lily, startled by my tone, scrambled off the couch and ran for the stairs. Brittany jumped up, phone clattering to the floor. "Mrs. Thompson, I thought you were—" "Give me the bottle." "What bottle?" "The one in your right hand." She'd instinctively hidden it behind her back. Her face went through several expressions: surprise, calculation, defensiveness, before settling on innocent confusion. "Oh, these? They're just my personal supplements. Sometimes I get migraines and—" "Lily doesn't have migraines. Give me the bottle." We stood there in a tense standoff for what felt like an hour but was probably 10 seconds. Then Brittany's expression hardened. "You can't prove anything," she said coldly. "All pretense of sweetness was gone. It's my word against yours. And I'll tell them you're a paranoid old woman who's been harassing me since day one." "Actually," Sarah's voice came from the stairs, "it's all on camera." Brittany's head snapped toward Sarah, who was holding her laptop, the security footage clearly visible on the screen. 3 weeks of you drugging my daughter. Every text message you sent. Every time you left her alone. The police are going to be very interested in this." I watched the color drain from Brittany's face. She looked at the door, clearly considering running. "I wouldn't," I said quietly. "We've already sent copies to Sarah's lawyer. You can either give me that bottle right now and answer our questions, or we call the police this second, and you answer their questions instead. Your choice." Brittany's hand trembled as she thrust the bottle at me. I grabbed it and immediately examined the label or where a label had been before someone had picked it off. But there were still traces of adhesive and partial letters. "What is this?" Sarah demanded. "It's nothing serious," Brittany said quickly. "Just diphenhydramine, Benadryl. Lots of parents use it to help kids calm down." "Diphenhydramine?" Sarah's voice rose. "You've been giving my 7-year-old antihistamine drugs without my knowledge or permission?" I was already on my phone, pulling up information. Diphenhydramine can cause severe drowsiness in children. Overdosing can lead to seizures, heart problems, or worse. "You've been giving her 3 times a day?" "She needed to be calm," Brittany burst out. "She was always so loud and bouncy, and I couldn't deal with it while I was." She stopped abruptly. "While you were what?" I pressed. "Who have you been texting?" "Nobody. It's none of your business." Sarah stepped down the stairs, her voice dangerously quiet. "My daughter is my business, and I will call the police right now unless you tell me everything." Brittany's eyes darted between us. I could see her weighing her options, calculating which truth might save her. Finally, she said, "Fine, it was Marcus." The name hit Sarah like a physical blow. She actually stumbled backward. "Marcus? My Marcus? He's not yours anymore," Brittany said with a bitter laugh. "He's been mine for 6 months now. We met at a bar downtown, and when he found out I was a babysitter, he thought it was hilarious. Then when I told him who I was sitting for..." She trailed off, shrugging. My mind was racing. Marcus was Sarah's ex-husband. They'd divorced 2 years ago after she'd discovered he'd been embezzling money from his company. He'd served 8 months in minimum security and been released on probation last fall. "What does Marcus have to do with you drugging Lily?" I demanded. "He wanted me to watch the house," Brittany said. "Learn Sarah's schedule, when she kept money at home, jewelry, anything valuable. The kid was just in the way. Marcus said if I kept her quiet and sleepy, I could focus on what mattered." "You were casing our house," Sarah said slowly, the full horror of it dawning. "You were going to rob us." "Not rob," Brittany corrected, as if that made it better. "Marcus said it was his house too, technically. Community property that Sarah kept in the divorce. He just wanted what was his." "He got nothing in the divorce because he's a convicted felon," Sarah shouted. "And you drugged my child as part of some scheme to help him steal from us?" "It wasn't supposed to be a big deal," Brittany said defensively. "The medicine is over the counter. Kids take it all the time for allergies. I wasn't hurting her." I felt rage building in my chest like I hadn't felt in decades. "You were systematically sedating a 7-year-old child. You left her alone in the house while she was impaired. You put her in danger every single day. Don't you dare claim you weren't hurting her." "Where is Marcus now?" Sarah asked, pulling out her phone. Brittany pressed her lips together. "Where is he?" "I don't know. He doesn't tell me his schedule." I moved to the window and pulled back the curtain, scanning the street. "Sarah, check the footage from this afternoon. Check if anyone came to the house while I was watching from outside." Sarah's fingers flew over her keyboard. We waited in tense silence, Brittany standing near the door like a cornered animal, while Sarah pulled up the front door camera feed. "Oh my God," Sarah breathed. "Someone tried the front door at 3:42. Look." We clustered around the laptop. The footage showed a figure in a baseball cap and hoodie approaching the door, trying the handle, then walking around the side of the house toward the back entrance. "That's Marcus," Sarah said with certainty. "I'd recognize his walk anywhere." "He was supposed to come at 3:30, Brittany said quietly. "I told him Lily would be asleep by then. He was going to come in through the back. I was going to leave it unlocked and take what he wanted while I stayed with the kid as an alibi." The calculating nature of it made me feel ill. This wasn't a crime of passion or desperation. This was planned, orchestrated, using a child as a tool. "I'm calling the police," Sarah said, already dialing. "Wait," Brittany said, panic finally entering her voice. "Please, I'll pay you back for any time you paid me. I'll testify against Marcus. I'll do whatever you want. Just don't report this. I'll lose my nursing school enrollment. I'll have a record." "You should have thought of that before you poisoned my daughter," Sarah said coldly. The next 3 hours were a blur. Police arrived. Statements were given. The bottle was seized as evidence. A detective named Morrison, a tired-looking woman in her 40s, watched the security footage with grim attention. "We've been looking for Marcus Wheeler," she said. "He violated his probation 2 months ago, disappeared. We had a tip he was in the Portland area, but nothing concrete. He's been using this girl to spy on my house," Sarah said, "planning to rob me." "Seems that way," Morrison agreed. "Miss Walsh here has admitted to administering medication to a minor without parental consent and conspiracy to commit burglary. That's serious charges even before we add in child endangerment." Brittany sat on our couch, handcuffed, crying. I felt no sympathy. "What about Marcus?" I asked. "He knows now that his plan failed. Won't he run?" "We've got units watching the house. He'll probably try to contact Miss Walsh. When he does, we'll be ready." Morrison was right. At 11 that night, while a plainclothes officer sat in our living room and another watched from a car outside, Brittany's phone buzzed. Morrison, wearing gloves, checked the message. "It's him. He wants to know what happened. Says he drove by and saw police cars earlier." She looked at Brittany. "You're going to text him back. Tell him it was a false alarm. A neighbor called about a suspicious person. Tell him the coast is clear tomorrow at the same time." Brittany nodded, her face blotchy and swollen from crying. The next day, we went through an elaborate charade. Sarah stayed in her office. Brittany, under police surveillance and wearing a wire, arrived at 1. I left on schedule. Lily was at Sarah's mother's house, safely away from all of this. At 3:28, Marcus Wheeler walked up to the back door. He was arrested without incident, found in possession of burglary tools and a handgun he wasn't legally allowed to carry as a felon. The fallout took weeks to settle. Brittany took a plea deal: 3 years probation, mandatory community service, and permanent removal from any childcare registries. Marcus went back to prison, his probation violated, and new charges added. He'd be there for at least 7 years. Sarah found a new babysitter, an older woman who came with references from 3 neighborhood families and who Sarah checked on remotely about 15 times a day for the first month. I stayed through the summer as planned, though I don't think I stopped watching Lily like a hawk until I finally went back to Boise in September. Lily had to see a pediatrician and a child psychologist. Dr. Peterson confirmed she'd been given diphenhydramine in doses high enough to cause the drowsiness we'd observed, but thankfully there appeared to be no long-term physical damage. The psychologist helped her process why Miss Brittany wasn't coming back in terms a 7-year-old could understand. "She made bad choices," Lily had told me one afternoon, repeating what she'd learned in therapy. "And when grown-ups make bad choices, there are consequences." "That's right, sweetheart," I'd said, holding her close. "Grandma, were you scared?" I'd thought about lying, telling her that grandmas are never scared. But I'd looked into those hazel eyes and decided she deserved the truth. "I was terrified," I'd admitted. "I was scared I wouldn't figure out what was happening in time. I was scared of what might have happened if I hadn't." "But you did figure it out," Lily had said simply. "You saved me." Now, months later, sitting in my quiet house in Boise, I still think about those weeks. I think about how easily we'd trusted Brittany because she'd had good reviews and passed a background check. I think about how close Marcus had come to succeeding. I think about all the things that could have gone wrong if I hadn't decided to skip one afternoon walk. Sarah calls me every Sunday. Lily is doing well, back to her energetic, chatty self. Sarah had the security system upgraded to cameras in every room. She's dating again carefully, slowly, and Lily seems happy. Sometimes late at night, I wonder about other babysitters in other homes, other children being given vitamins or supplements to keep them quiet. I wonder how many Britneys are out there, and how many grandmothers like me might walk in just in time. Or worse, might not. That's why I'm sharing this story now, not for sympathy or attention, but as a warning. Trust your instincts. If something feels off about the way your child acts around their caregiver, investigate. Install security cameras. Ask questions. Check medication bottles. Don't assume that a background check and good reviews mean someone is trustworthy. And if you see something wrong, act on it. Don't wait. Don't second-guess yourself. Because I learned something important that summer in Portland. I learned that sometimes the greatest danger comes from the people we invite into our homes, the ones we pay to care for those we love most. And I learned that a grandmother's instinct, that feeling in your gut that something isn't right, is worth more than 1,000 five-star reviews. Lily is safe now. But she almost wasn't. And that knowledge will stay with me for the rest of my life. If you found this story helpful, I hope you'll share it. Not for me, but for the other Lilies out there who might need someone to notice, someone to act, someone to save them before it's too late. Because every child deserves a grandmother or parent, or teacher, or neighbor who pays attention, who trusts their instincts, who refuses to look away when something doesn't feel right. Be that person. It might save a life.